Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. Hey, just wanted to come by this morning and share a little bit with you. What I want to talk about this morning is testimony. Your testimony. Are you sharing your testimony? Do you have a testimony to share? Because we all have a story to tell. We all have a testimony. And I know a lot of times people think to themselves, well, I've had a pretty basic life, nothing exciting, nothing major, so I don't really have a testimony. If God is in your life, then you have a testimony, because at some point God wasn't in your life and now he is in your life. You made a decision at some point to invite God into your life, so you have a testimony. And I know some people may say, hey, well, I've known God since I was a small child. But God is doing something in everybody's life. So we all have a testimony. And if you're somebody who came to know Jesus at a young age and you never got involved in any major things in life and haven't faced any major storms, then that's testimony. You know, if God's kept you from addiction, or God's kept you from whatever it is, that's testimony. And my encouragement to you this morning is to share your testimony. And if that means you got to sit and practice it for a while and talk to God about how you should share that, then please do that, because your testimony is important for somebody to hear. Somebody needs to hear your testimony. And like I said, whether it's you were saved at a young age and God kept you from so many different things that maybe some family members or some friends of yours went through that you didn't go through because of your relationship with Jesus, then that's a testimony. Maybe you've had a dramatic experience. You know, maybe Jesus brought you out of something. That's a testimony. You know, my testimony is my health. You know, as most of you guys know, for 17 and a half years, I've been battling for my life, and especially the last 10 years. But on November 3rd of 2019, God healed me of my health issues. And that's my testimony. And that's the story that God's given me to share with others. And what I want to encourage you as you're sharing your story, always your testimony, always make sure that as you're sharing your testimony, that God is always front and center. Because it's very easy, especially if you share your testimony a lot, if you're a speaker or you're just in a position where you share your story a lot. Sometimes we can, without even realizing it, sometimes we all of a sudden can become the main thing, and then God gets put down here. My encouragement to you is always, as you're sharing your testimony, always make sure that God is number one, and that we're just down here, and God's allowing us to share the story that He's given us. But always make sure that as you're sharing your testimony, that God is the main thing. And two, never be upset when you hear that other people are sharing your testimony. Because I've had, just in the last few weeks since my healing, I mean, I've had people come up to me that I've never met and go, oh man, I heard about your story, I heard your testimony. You know, and I'm like, how did you hear that? I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so told me. And I've had that happen so many times. And I think it's awesome, because I may have never met that person, and somebody that hears your story, hears my story. We may never be in a position to meet those people, but somebody felt that your story, that my story, was important enough to share with somebody else, to help encourage somebody else. And that's the only reason, guys, that I share my testimony, is to help encourage others that may be facing whatever life storm that they're facing. And of course, number one, to always sharing my story so that people will know how powerful and wonderful and loving our Savior is. So those are the two main reasons that I share my testimony, so that God will be glorified and that somebody will be encouraged, hopefully, by hearing my story. And I pray that as you share your story, those are your two main objectives, that God would be glorified and that whoever you're sharing your testimony with will be encouraged by hearing your story. But we have to share our story, guys. We cannot just sit back and hope that somebody's going to ask us about our story, or somebody's going to tell our story to somebody else. We have to share our story. Have to share what God is doing in our lives, because people need to hear that. People need to be encouraged. People need to know. I mean, like with just an example with my story, people need to know that we still serve a God that is a God of miracles. That's the God of healing. That's not something that happened 2,000 years ago, but that's something that still happens today. So my encouragement to you today, guys, share the story, the testimony that God's given you, and make sure that God is always the center of your story, and that as you share your story, you share it in a way that hopefully will encourage somebody that's going through their own storm, their own struggles in life. So, hey guys, I pray everybody has a great day. I pray that your day is filled with amazing moments and God's blessings. Share your story, share your testimony. God bless.